Wow, it's been a while. It's good to see you again, Gern. How are you today?
I'm fantastic, Pat. Glad to be here. It's been a while, and I've missed these talks, so I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to it.
I have too. Obviously, life gets in the way, but Rogue One. How about this, man? What a great idea! Thank you for bringing up the idea because I don't know why we didn't think of this earlier, but super, super idea. Love this movie.
Yeah, I remember you and I talked right after I had seen it, and I guess it came out in 2016.
December 16th of 2016. I looked it up.
Okay, very good. And I enjoyed it, but I felt like, yeah, it's not really a Star Wars film because it doesn't feature any of the principal characters. It takes place in the Star Wars universe, and this was really the first motion picture that takes place without the main characters. The other non-main character stories were cartoons or animated computer animated shows, which I didn't watch any of them. So I had to like kind of get over that hump. And after time it sank in, I'm like, yeah, you know what? This is a really good Star Wars film. I fully embrace it as such.
There's no lightsabers.
Yeah, there is.
Huh? Oh, well, but I mean, like the main characters are not force wielding lightsaber guys. Just,
They're not. There are
yeah,
no Jedi, and this is the
yeah,
other thing
yeah,
that in the what makes a Star Wars film?
right,
Struggle, good versus evil,
right.
and magical Jedi.
Yeah.
And how can you have a Star Wars film without some Force element? And while there certainly was a character that was claimed to be close to the Force, I was unsure about that character.
I was too, but on this watching, I've become convinced that he's a force user.
I agree. I think the
Yeah.
same thing because at first I thought I interpreted his character as he's a
Of course, we're
Force.
talking about Chirrut Imwe for those in the audience that may not know
Right.
what we're talking
The,
about.
the blind monk.
Yes.
The blind monk. I interpreted him as a Force fanboy, kind of a hanger-on who
Well,
somebody who really idolized the Jedi, but he wasn't one of them, and he kind of wishes he could have been part of the action.
he was one of
Um,
the old temple guards, and
yeah,
yeah, so like he probably knew the lore, he probably heard stories, probably heard all this kind of stuff. But it's not, it seems as if the Jedi are inactive. Of course, this is after Order 66. If you have anything to do with the prequels,
right.
which some people don't like that, and that's fine. But as far as the
Right.
canon timeline goes,
It's part of the universe. It's part of the
it,
universe.
it just fits in the timeline. So even
It's the
if you
story.
dismiss all that, there has to be a reason why Jedi are so scared. And but Jedi are not unknown because um, oh gosh, Jimmy Smith's character,
Bail Organa.
yeah, Organa. He's he actually says to Mon Mothma at the end, or she says, "Are you going to go get your friend?" And he's like, "Well, we're going to need everything we can get."
It's got to be
So.
somebody you trust. I
And
trust her with my
actually,
life.
there is a Jedi that appears in this story. Did you catch this? So twice when we go to Jeddah, there is a reclining figure, and the land formations make a shape that looks like Obi-Wan Kenobi laying on his side. So there's one where he's laying and he's facing the camera and his head's pointing towards the screen right. And then the second scene is, so I suppose it's the same land formation, but for whatever reason, they've mirror imaged it and it's facing left. And you can actually see a scar in the earth that looks like a lightsaber.
I did not notice that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Clever.
So I'll put that, obviously, while we're talking about it, I'll superimpose images
There's a number of
in one
Easter
of the
eggs.
edits, and we'll put that over there. Yeah. So
Yeah, there's a number of Easter eggs in the movie, and I think that producers of new Star Wars films always go out of their way to do what is now called fan service, to stick in some stuff that people who are really into it will recognize. Say, hey, that was cool.
well, this one for sure. I mean, there are so many. I'm sure there are other videos out there that covered all of them, but the
Yeah,
ones that come up in the course of the story, they're just, I I'm a geek. I love those fan service things. I'm there. I'm like, thank you for tipping your hat to me. Like
one
you
of my
recognize
favorite
that I'm a fan. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my favorite little fan service moments was the roustabout character with his walrus friend who menace Luke in the cantina.
Yes.
Episode 4 bumps into one of the main characters from Rogue One while they're on Jeddah. So that was kind of a nice moment.
Yeah, and he's just a hothead. He threatens everybody, right?
He just goes to the galaxy. It's amazing that he's not. Well, that's probably why he looks.
That's why his nose is all messed up.
The guy's been in some scrapes that he just can't handle. You know, he's constantly mouthing off to the wrong people.
No, his walrus friend always like gets him out of it. Or here's the thing. Did you ever see the Robot Chicken? You know about Robot Chicken? Where
I know of it, but I've never seen it.
So they've done the Star Wars thing, and this is Seth Green, and they use little action figures. They do stop motion animation, and it's pretty funny. So one of them, they use the walrus character, and he goes to the office, and he has a bad day, and he gets fired, and he goes to the bar, and his friend's there, and he's like, you know, and so we don't know what the walrus is saying, but so there's subtitles. Like in Star Wars, we never know what the walrus language is.
Right.
But in the Robot Chicken, there's subtitles. And so he's trying to diffuse the situation when the guy's like, you know, you should be careful. You know, he's like, no, stop. This guy's okay. You know, don't do it. You know, and it ends up being a great twist. You know, so.
I'll be careful. You'll be dead.
That's a great, but isn't that a great line?
Yeah. What? Here, let me buy you something. This little one's not worth the trouble.
He's not worth it. Let me buy you a drink. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me go to my notes here.
Yeah, me too. So okay. So the first thing, you know, we missed that fanfare, right? That da, 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 which is like, you know, here I am, 2016.
Yeah.
You know, The Force Awakens is a year in the past, and I'm here to watch a Star Wars movie, and that doesn't happen. And I'm like, oh,
it's buried. I mean, the title credit doesn't come until after a very long introduction.
6 or 7 minutes.
Then it's super brief. They show the title of the movie, play a small theme, a leitmotif, and move on.
No crawl. There's no letter crawl against the background of stars. Right. Now there is the space shot, the planet, and then there's a ship, but it's not like this giant ship in the foreground as we get in all the other ones. It's this little ship that's like
ship against rings.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like the fact that they take the time to show what the rings would look like from the ground, but they don't spend they just do it. Yeah. It doesn't draw attention to itself in and of itself. It's not like, oh, look at us with the special effects. It's just like, yeah, that's what it would look like. And now we go to the scene. And I thought that was a really, when I look at that now, I think there's a subtlety to it, you know, like I feel like at the time, I have to admit, at the time when I saw Rogue One, I thought it was a bit disjointed. Mm-hmm. We're seeing like 4 or 5 different planets in the course of like 5-6 minutes.
That's right.
I'm having trouble following where we are. I still don't know where Jin was when she was in that jail cell. I still don't know.
It's like a Bond film in that regard. That even on second viewing, there were moments when I thought, wait a minute, what's his role here again? What?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little bit of a complicated setup, particularly with the involvement of Whitaker's role, who's the
Saw Gerrera,
who's the rebel extremist. And when she finally confronts him, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, what was the plan to get them together so that we could watch the hologram of her father? That part was a little bit clunky, but
I agree. She even has to reiterate it. They make her reiterate it during her dialogue. I'm just here to get you two together, and now I leave and everything. You guys do whatever you want. But when I was watching it the first time, I'm fascinated by I'm looking at all the stuff in the background. I'm looking at the creature effects. I'm looking at the sets. I'm looking at the effects. And I'm looking at his like get up and the weapons and the fact that he's got robot feet and and I'm not listening to Jin, So now after watching it all the way through with detailed look, probably about 5 times. I mean, I've watched bits of it over the years. Yeah. This is probably maybe my 5th, like sit down and watch viewing. Uh-huh. And it's, I know what's coming, so I can pay attention to the plot a lot better, Yeah.
Well, they had, it's tricky to, as we know, it's hard to do a good prequel. And I think that this movie delivers in that regard, because they have to, whenever a science fiction world has had many, many, many installments and books and whatever, it becomes so complicated that to maintain the internal coherence between all the different stories that have been told, the writers are really boxed in terms of what they can do. And they managed to really assemble all that jigsaw puzzle so that it fits in pretty seamlessly with the rest of the series, I think.
I have to agree. It didn't feel forced, and it actually addressed a couple like big plot holes that people have complained about over the years. Like, why would you design a space station and have this so obvious flaw in it? Now we just sewed that up.
Yes.
I mean, that's been forever, since 77.
Yeah.
But well, maybe not. I mean, I think people were so enamored of Star Wars and that was before the hyper critique. But like, once the internet was invented, then every like fan theorist had a sounding board to bring their nitpicking complaints,
I was
myself included. I'm not.
Yeah, but we do it in a fun way where there are people that do it where they're constantly on the attack as a takedown for some kind of because they're insecure. I think. I got to take down the creators of this world, which I'm really into, because I got nothing else going on. But what I was going to say is that it occurs to me, and I thought about this before this call, that what you and I are doing right now in this post-game analysis of various movies online has become a thing that was never really possible before. Before, friends would talk about a movie. Hey, what'd you think? I liked it. I didn't like it. But now the whole idea of the fan critique, retrospective, deep dive analysis is a whole social event now, in the same way that our grandparents got together and played cribbage. People of our age and younger now do this with pop culture content.
Well,
and that's okay.
We do
in the style that we do it. It's fun, and
it's rich enough that that what I think the reason I can watch these kinds of videos is that somebody will come up with something I haven't seen before, or they'll have a different take on it, or they'll explain something to me that I didn't understand. So like sometimes I'll just miss stuff. Like you brought up something, I forget which talk where you did, and I was like, I never noticed that before. And now it seems so obvious, and yet I had seen that so many times.
Same thing. So when you enjoy some piece of pop culture, gently probing it for inconsistencies or hidden surprises or explanations for things that were previously unexplained it's fun.
Well, it's that, and it also gives it a balance, because otherwise I'm just a gushing simp, because I love this stuff so much that if I don't try to complain a little bit about it, I look like I'm just like, oh my God, I love it. But I do. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I didn't have a tremendous amount to complain about this, but let me go through a couple of the slides that I have here.
Sure.
My first one is that my first reaction getting through here is that Krennic's a great classic Star Wars bad guy, in that he is British, arrogant, and ruthless. Perfect. I've never seen this actor in anything else before, but he's great in this role. He's a complete a-hole. He's very believable, and just somebody who wants power and to destroy. And you really hate him in this.
And he's got a great outfit.
He has a great outfit. So all the bad guys have capes.
Yes.
All bad guys always have capes.
Yeah.
He's got this great white outfit, which is very unusual.
When I remember coming out of the theater, I saw it with Tara, and she said, "What?" It was a couple weeks before, not even maybe a week and a half before Christmas. And she said, "What do you want for Christmas?" I said, "A white cape." I never got it, but and then the best part is when we first see him, it's windy as all get, and the thing's just like flapping, like in the breeze, and it's and he's got the black clad Imperial Guard troopers, his personal guard troopers, death troopers, I think they call them now, but I think that's what but at one point he dispatches them to help on Scarif, and he calls them my personal guard, except
That's right.
takes a few other guys with him.
That's
And
right.
then, and we know that he's a really bad guy. There's a couple things. One is he sneers every time Jin's around. When she's a little girl, we see the flashback scene where they're at the cocktail party,
Right.
and he walks over to, Galen walks over to hug his daughter. There's a little thing in the background where Orson is just sitting there going like, Krennic's like, like what an annoyance. Almost, he's almost disgusted by it, like a child. He's obviously not a family man. He's just this is his overarching ambition is his character trait, right?
Well, what I also like about his character is that, and this is a nice tie-in with the original series. He's in competition with Tarkin.
Yes.
Right. These guys are both trying to grab the top of the bat handle.
Yeah.
And of course, Tarkin has already had him outmaneuvered.
Yeah. And Tarkin is the calm, cool, like self-assured. And and Krennic tries that, but we see cracks in the armor, So
he's again a hothead. He can't control his passion.
I love he goes from 0 to 11. I love that. I love that. That's wonderful. It makes it a fun character because you never know when he's going to explode. And he doesn't do it in a Kylo Ren kind of way. He does it in a it's a powerful way. It's not I guess because he has a bit of gravitas, because we know that he's an important guy. He's got 12 pips emblazoned across his chest. I mean, you don't do that unless like you're somebody in the Empire, right? You don't get to wear that like big heavy hunk of plastic and metal.
Well, you don't get to wear a cape either.
No,
we've never seen any Imperials wearing a cape.
It's Darth,
but it's part of the uniform, and Darth doesn't have a uniform.
Yeah.
So I'll bring up.
One more thing about
go ahead.
the Jin. Just one more thing about Krennic and Jin. So at the very beginning, when he's having his slick conversation with Galen, and he's going to try to convince him to come back to work, he screams to his troopers. He says, "They have a child. Find it."
Yeah, I know.
Not her. Yeah. Find it.
I noticed that too.
Depersonalized.
That solidifies his evil character bona fides.
Yeah, because who doesn't like kids, right? Like if you don't like kids, you're evil. If you don't like dogs, you're evil.
Dogs are kids.
Yeah. I mean, like if you're just, So like I love that they did it that way. I just thought that was satisfying.
So let me ask you, and I think I know what the answer. I think we're going to agree on this. Who's the best character in this film?
Oh wow, I never even thought about that. There's so many. That's interesting. Before I answer that, I have to say
there's one standout for me.
I have to say before I answer that when I first saw the film, I wasn't as interested in the main characters as I was the supporting characters. I thought that Jin and Cassian were okay.
Yep.
But I really didn't care for them. I was way more interested in Chirrut. But you got to admit, I have to admit that for me, it's my man behind me, like the guy in the spotlight right here.
Okay. So now that you've answered the question, I will hold this up and hopefully you can see it.
Yeah. Why doesn't she get a blaster? Why does she get a blaster and I don't? I like that. I actually, and then he does. She gives him a blaster at the end.
He has all the best lines. Here's another one. When they first there's the ambush on Jeddah.
Yeah.
And she takes some action of shooting somebody, and K2SO says, "Congratulations." No. When they first abducted, "Congratulations, you're being rescued. Please do not resist."
Yes. And he smacks, he like throws her to the ground.
And then I'm looking for the other quote, which was, "Well done. You're a rebel now."
That was to the pilot when the pilot shoots. Pilot shoots the fighters. Is that what it was? Yeah,
I think so. And then when they're around Scarif, and the one character says, "If we hit that thing, the ship will disintegrate and we'll be lost in the infinite void of outer space." And he says, "Not me.
Not me.
I can survive in space."
Yeah. So
he's got all the funniest lines.
So in the theater, like when I watched that today, it was okay. But in the theater, that got a huge laugh because we're going to Scarif. We know the stakes. We know they're going alone. It looks like impossible odds, and we don't know yet that they are. But he, and everybody in the theater is like tense, and that relieved the tension at the perfect moment. So everybody was allowed to breathe for a second, right? But
absolutely, yeah. I laughed at all of his laugh lines. I actually laughed at, and I'm watching it alone, which is a real test of whether something is funny or not.
Yes. Well, I actually had to post the one. I actually got so happy. I started, and that's when I started recording as I was watching, like little snippets that I'll add to this conversation. But when the stormtrooper comes up to them and says, "Where are you taking these prisoners?" And he says, "Prisoners. These are prisoners."
Yes.
He's like, "Yes, where are you taking them?" He says, "I'm taking them to imprison them in prison."
In a prison.
And then what's his name's gonna like speak up? Cassian's gonna say something. And he goes, "What?" He says,
"There's a fresh one for if you do that again."
I think I laughed for about a full minute, like a full 60 seconds alone in my house, just laughing. And I played it over probably 10 times. It was just
here's
so
what
fun.
I like about his character.
Yeah.
There are only two other important robot characters in the Star Wars universe.
Right.
R2D2 is the spunky, resourceful, gets the job done robot. And 3PO is comic relief. Nobody likes him because he's annoying. He's a Nimrod. K2SO, smart, hip, funny, and dryly comedic.
He's the smartest character in the story.
I think that's right.
They set him up to be. He's a tactical genius, right?
Right. He's like, our chances of surviving this are 33%. Well, they've just gone down to 25% based on what you just told me.
And at the beginning, when she gets the gun and he says to Cassian, "Do you know what the odds are that she's going to shoot you with that?"
Yeah.
They're high.
Yeah.
They're very high. So that makes him different from 3PO right off the bat. Right off the bat, we're like, okay, this guy's not an odds giver as much. And he's got a personality. He's not just going to be this robot.
And it's a very funny line when he
great setup.
That was another one where you just reminded me of that, where he says they're high, and then there's an objection, and he's like, "They're high."
Yeah.
He moves on, and the delivery is great. And I'm sure they had an actor in motion capture outfit, so the hand gestures, the shoulder movements, the head tilts allow the actor to deliver it so that the CGI robot carries that physical humor or intonation in the way the human actor normally would.
So the actor is Alan Tudyk, and Alan Tudyk is, I don't know if you were a fan of the Firefly TV show or the movie Serenity.
I saw the movie, and so side story. I'm the person who, having never watched the X-Files, went to see the X-Files movie. I'm the person who never watched Firefly, but then saw the Serenity movie. So,
well, the X-Files, that's interesting. I'd love to pick your brain about that because I watched the series and I was caught up when I saw the movie. So for me, that was just a 2-hour episode. But for you, that was probably because they shoved a lot of stuff into that movie so that non-TV series watchers would get a lot out of it and maybe watch the series, So yeah, but that's a different conversation.
Well, I would just say that the Serenity movie, I remember spending the first, I don't know how long it took, fifth of the movie, and they're talking about, oh, it's Reavers. Reavers are coming. I'm like, what's a Reaver? You haven't told us. I have no idea. So that it relied on a lot of background knowledge that if you didn't watch the show, you had no idea.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say because again, I watched the TV series in 2002. The movie came out in 2005, and so it was still fairly fresh in my mind. I still knew what was going on, but Alan Tudyk played Wash. He played the pilot of the Firefly of Serenity. So
was that a human character?
Yeah, he was a human character, and he's funny. Actually, I think all of the characters in Serenity are funny. I think that's actually a comedy. I don't think that's a sci-fi movie. I think that's all. Well, the movie might be more sci-fi-ish, but the TV series for me was pure comedy.
My brother loves it. He's urged me to watch it on several occasions. I just haven't gotten around to it.
No, there's only a couple episodes. It's really not, it's not a big task. Let's put it that way. But anyway, what I wanted to draw attention to is that he is a great comedic actor. So it doesn't surprise me that, but until this watching the credits this time, I didn't know. I didn't make that connection until today that Alan Tudyk was K2SO.
I like to not be able to connect the voice of a non-human character with the actual actor. I don't want to think about the actor.
Well, as you said, as you brought that up, this is the first time I remember James Earl Jones getting a credit. He gets a voice credit as the voice of Darth Vader comes up in the credits. Yeah. And I still don't think when I hear Vader, I hear Vader.
I agree.
I love James Earl Jones, but it comes to mind on occasion, but it's not the first thing I think of when I hear Vader.
I agree with you on that. Mm-hmm. Yep. So bouncing around to another thought. So in trying to stitch together old and new, we know that they intersperse some X-Wing fighter cockpit shots from episode 4 into the Battle over Scarif.
Yeah.
Nice tie-in.
Yeah.
But they, in my opinion, I think they took it a little too far in trying to CGI Tarkin. His character is very much physical appearance is in the uncanny valley for me, where it's like awfully darn close, but does not read as human, particularly when the lips are moving. It bothered me more the second time than the first time that I saw it. Maybe that has to do with the difference between seeing it on a large screen and seeing it on a small TV. That it drew attention to itself and it bothered me. And I thought I would have been happier if they had just cast a similar looking actor of a similar age who was British and just said, I'm Grand Moff Tarkin, in the same way that they substitute new actors on soap operas, like, I'm Bob now. Okay, I accept you as character Bob.
This is the thing, I think. This is my theory. They had this technology. They thought it was pretty close. It was cutting edge in 5 years ago, and they tried it. Yeah. I agree. When I left the theater, I thought it was good, but not there. And I also had that ambivalence, especially with Leia. And then it was like, why couldn't they just use makeup with Leia? But with Tarkin, I guess in the intervening years, I've watched Tarkin in the cartoonish series. So I've watched his character as a cartoon in the Clone Wars TV series, and then as in Rebels as well, which is even more cartoonish. Mm-hmm. And so I guess I'm okay with it. I agree with you from a stylistic point of view. The eyes never were right. Yeah. In fact, you'll often see they try to hide that with shadow and also having him look into reflections and talk away from the character, because just like, breaking the fourth wall here, just like I enjoy wearing sunglasses when I'm on Zoom, because you're either looking at your own image or you're looking at the other person's image, but you're never directly looking at the camera. And even though that's a very short distance, human beings pick up that, human beings, there's so much at stake in personal relationships and gestures and emotion that we follow each other's pupils whether we know it or not. And so for them to try to do that in CGI would have been an utter fail. So I understand why they shot it the way they shot it, but I agree it wasn't there yet. The technology may still not be there, but it's getting there, and it's scary.
Yeah. I don't want to get into this conversation, but the deep fakes that you're seeing online now as like, hey, this is what's possible right now, it's way beyond what we've seen in this movie. But
okay, here's a real scary one. Just as a small aside, a friend of mine took my friend Kevin's face and put it on Audrey Hepburn in Breakfast at Tiffany's in like 10 different scenes. And unfortunately, about half of them looked believable. And it was like, oh no.
Yeah. Well, the very first time I saw it several years ago, I mean, I had the same reaction I'm sure that many thinking people had, which was, no good will come of this.
No.
It's going to be a very destabilizing, societally destabilizing technology, because now nothing can be believed.
Oh, I know.
But we're here to talk about happier things. Because,
let's talk about the great movie that we just saw.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad things in the world, and I watched this movie to get away from those things. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. This movie introduced.
Yeah.
One, star destroyers can enter the atmosphere. And
yes. First time ever I saw that.
They can just hover.
Yeah.
You just sit there.
It's amazing. Anti-gravity.
And this is kind of one of the things that I like about the Star Wars universe, unlike Trek, is that the technology, it's magical. It doesn't matter.
Don't have to explain it.
You don't have to talk about it. You don't have to name it.
Don't have to explain it if it's not part of the plot. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
It just works. They have the technology, the end.
So here's the thing. I just thought of this. I don't know why I never thought of this. So if they can levitate a Star Destroyer at a specific distance off the Earth, why don't they have like anti-grav boots? Because like when they're trying to get the 8-track tape out of the like tower, and get
but the answer to that is based on what they knew about infiltrating that base, they had no idea that it would come in handy.
Yeah.
Because I think the anti-gravity technology is widespread throughout the Star Wars universe, because small craft, land speeders, all sorts of sleds, the speeders that are seen on the forest planet Endor. And then also in the Mandalorian, these kind of land skimmers, they all hover. Bikes, you get off them, they just stay where they are. They're not attached to the ground in any way.
That's a good point.
So I think we can safely assume that this floating technology is widespread, easily available, and that if they had known that they would need some kind of hoverability on this heist, they would have brought it.
So this may also explain why nobody in the Star Wars universe is afraid of heights. Because they have anti-grav right in the soles of their shoes, right?
There are no railings on
anywhere.
Any of these catwalks anywhere.
Oh, well, little tiny ones.
There was on the transmission tower. It's one of the only very high access areas in the Star Wars universe I've ever seen that has any kind of railings or safety features of any kind.
Okay, speaking of which, when they do the Death Star shot, right? And the two guys cower, still no safety rail, Very consistent with the New Hope. Yeah, very consistent. And with Jedi as well, with Return of the Jedi.
You got to think, if you're one of the guys that works on the actual weapon part of the Death Star, I don't think you should have children after that.
I don't think you can.
I don't think because there's going to be some serious radiation involved there. It just does not look safe.
That hue of green is just bad news. Like, when you see that, like that shade of green, there's some serious radiation going on there.
Yeah, it can't be good for procreation. Can't be good. Possibly not for you either. I mean, it got to be cancer causing, but hey,
DNA has been spliced.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, when they go down, the first scene where Krennic comes down with his death troopers and they're going after Jyn, and the death trooper picks up the stormtrooper doll.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Love that. Absolutely love that. Just love that. I don't know. Little stuff.
Oh, so here's something that I noticed that I did not notice the first time because I couldn't have. When I saw the movie in the theater in 2016, that was 2 years before I actually went to Iceland.
Oh, yeah.
And on this viewing, the planet that we initially see where Urso is living with a wife and daughter, I looked at it and like, oh, they're in Iceland.
Is that Iceland?
It is. I didn't check this online, but it is such a unique, recognizable landscape. The entire island looks exactly like that, where all of the soil is black, volcanic, lava-ish rock covered by mossy patches of green.
Gotcha.
So I think if we went and checked out where the shooting locations were, I guarantee it was done in Iceland. But
The funny thing is, I have 8 minutes left in the credits that I didn't watch, and I probably would have picked that up. That's funny, but it's easy enough to check. Somebody throw it in the comments for us. That'd be great.
the other thing I will say about the opening sequence in the landscape that they picked was that, did you notice that they made the dwelling look virtually identical to Luke's dwelling on Tatooine?
There's green milk on the counter.
I didn't notice the milk, but
Mhm.
I mean, even though this is a wet planet they're living on, they still have these towers that are very reminiscent of the Vaporators.
Mhm.
They still live in these kind of dome shell domiciles. The inside is very similar. It looks very much like Aunt Beru's house. So that was another nice little nod to.
I'm guessing it's like buying a double wide. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like,
it's like a double
it's a prefab, like that's probably real cheap.
Yeah.
They're modular. You can expand. You can put them semi underground. They probably just take them over. They probably have a drop ship, and they just like drop them, and then that way they're half buried underground. And then you just go in and customize them the way you want them. So, yeah.
But good action sequences in this film. So it really kind of kicks off into high gear on Jeddah with the rebel ambush and this Imperial tank type device. Really great practical effects. Very exciting. Even I guess a high point of that was also the blind monk's takedown of a stormtrooper squadron with nothing more than his stick, which, not believable, but the way that they filmed it, really exciting piece of cinematography, really nice, fun.
So there's a couple things going on in that scene, I think. One of them is there is a guy who superimposed a lightsaber on the staff and makes it look like a lightsaber scene. Makes it's worth watching. I give the guy kudos for that. The other thing is, I guess someone did some demographics, found out that Star Wars wasn't particularly popular in China. So I think this was like an attempt to get a Chinese audience. I guess the guy who plays Chirrut Imwe is apparently a pretty big film star, or at the time was a pretty big film star in China. So that was
really, that's interesting, because I like him a lot in this role.
Mm-hmm.
I wish it had been bigger. But the point that you raised there, okay, number one, I really dislike a film when they insert things that are clearly designed to increase the appeal in China.
Mm-hmm.
Just tell the story you need to tell, because when you do that, it reminds me that, oh, it's all about making money. Mm-hmm. And then that takes me out of that I'm transported in a movie theater sensation to, you just brought me back to earth and reminded me that it's really just all about money.
Sorry. Yeah, that's that I found out later, but yeah, because I was like, what's up with all this like martial arts stuff? So for me, I remember thinking this is cool, but it's out of place. And that was fine. I didn't like, it didn't kill me, but like it was kind of like the Tarkin thing where I was like, well, that's an odd choice.
It was an odd choice, but the reason that I felt that it fit was, and this struck me particularly on, I think it's not just because of the second viewing, but because things culturally in America are shifting more since the movie came out. And what I noticed on the second viewing today, hyper diverse cast. So Star Wars, even in the 70s, was criticized heavily for being all white, which is why Lucas,
male.
In male, which is why Lucas inserted Lando Calrissian in the second movie. This movie got pretty much every ethnicity in, almost, not all. There were no major black characters, but we had Arab characters.
We had Forrest Whitaker.
We had, that's true, Forrest Whitaker wasn't it. I'm thinking of like the guys we're rooting for, the heroes. None of the heroes are black. We have a Spanish actor. We have a guy.
Yeah, in fact, did you find the accent? Like when I first saw it, I found that the accent, maybe because of the theater I saw it in, the music maybe was louder than the speech, but I had trouble understanding him at times.
There were times I did as well.
Yeah, when I watch movies now, I invariably watch them with closed captioning on because I don't want to miss anything.
Yeah,
And also because sometimes there's a difference between the dialogue and the captioning. And I like those little quirky stuff because
frequently.
Sometimes you'll find a line and I'll think, was that in the script? And then, they forgot to like do the closed captioning thing or what?
That's interesting. I noticed that on sometimes if I'm watching, for instance, right now I'm watching a French series, and of course I have to watch with the captions, but I have enough of that high school French that there are times when I'm like, that's not what she said. Like, you got the gist, but you substituted a very different word.
Yeah.
And it would have been just as easy to put in the English equivalent. And I always think, why did they make that choice?
Yeah.
So yeah, I get what you're saying about that.
That always confused me whenever people would translate poetry. Yeah. It always got me. It's like, wait. How did you rhyme? That can't be right. You can't rhyme that well in English, not as well as French or Italian. It's easy to rhyme in those languages, but you can't tell me that like that's what that actually said. Like you had to change some meaning in order to like make that rhyme. So
of course, I think that's a whole interesting topic right there. I remember a few years ago there was I had read it in the paper. There was this hullabaloo over the first new English translation of War and Peace. It was either War and Peace or Anna Karenina. First new one, all new one in decades.
Yeah.
And everybody's Russian speakers said, "Oh, this is much closer to the original Russian. This is, if you're going to read a translation, this is the one you should read." So I read. It was kind of meta reading. I read stories about this translation, and all the stories were about how dramatically the feeling of what the author was trying to convey can be changed by a poor translation, and what an art translation actually is.
Is this story still boring?
I don't
sorry.
know.
I'm sorry. I mean, believe me, I love Leo Tolstoy's prose. I love I love the way he writes. I did not enjoy Anna Karenina.
You know who's like that?
Yeah.
I'll give you an American author who's right in that vein. David Foster Wallace.
I don't know that I've ever read any David Foster
Love
Wallace.
to read his writing.
Yeah.
His prose is just tasty. It like makes your brain feel good. It's challenging.
Yeah.
But as a storyteller, he is not.
That's a shame.
Well, there are a lot of authors like that.
They're in love with their use of language.
The other one that comes to mind, who I read in quite a few books, John Updike, right? Fun to read, not maybe the best storyteller.
Maybe better to read his nonfiction, his news art, his journalism. Yeah,
probably.
Diego Luna. We gotta get back to him. Cassian Andor, and then, but before I want to bring up Jeddah. When we come into, no, it's not Jeddah. It's before Jeddah. It's the planet they're on where he meets the contact and then kills him.
Oh, yeah.
So kills one of his own allies because he knows he's going to impair his escape.
Yeah. Well, not only is he going to impair his escape, he's going to spill the beans.
Yeah, because he's nervous to begin with. It's all going to pot,
And that's actually kind of a noir trope that like, this guy's going to rat me out. I got to kill him.
So, but what I'm saying, this is not your classic Star Wars film.
No,
this is not your classic good guy. This guy is so determined. He is so committed to the cause that he'll kill his own kind. He'll kill people on his side.
He has that conversation with Jen later when she realizes that he was sent to kill her father. And that's that conversation came and went the first time I saw it. This time it carried more weight for me for some reason.
Me too.
I think
the fact that everybody knew, the fact that Temple guards knew, the fact that K2 knew, his weapon was in sniper configuration.
Right. So it was a powerful moment because look, he's a soldier in the resistance. He's attempting to overthrow a fascist regime. And because of his own feelings and emotions at that moment, he chose not to do it. So he's already disobeyed direct orders from his allies. It was a personal decision on his part. And he has to then explain that to Jen. I actually I felt more sympathy for him than I did for Jen in that moment.
Yeah. That came out because when I saw it the first time, I didn't think that was redeemable for Cassian.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, well, what a cold-hearted jerk. But this time there was a balance in my sympathies between the two characters.
Yeah. He was sent to assassinate the guy who built the goddamn Death Star weapon.
He could have done that, but did he even know who the guy was? And the argument is, well, he had a white cape on. Just shoot the guy in the white cape. It's the easiest guy to shoot on the platform. Just shoot him. But that's a flaw.
This raises a point.
Yeah,
that scene.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can center this properly.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, that's funny because that's Krennic showing his command authority that he's going to take these pencil neck geeks and put them out in the elements. And they all do a great job of standing there going why are we here?
Here's a little nitpick. And so there are decisions that you make in a film or a book because it's expedient to the plot.
Good point.
Now, if he had not brought the engineers out in the open in this secret complex, that would have had to have been another rebel infiltration into another base. Where are they? I don't know. Call up the map plans, get the robot to plug in, and it'll be a whole nother search and find operation. We don't have time for that in this.
No, plot. It's already a 2-hour movie. You can't.
So the writers said, all right, somehow we just have to make it easy to find this confrontation between Krennic and Urso. How can we do that? Let's have them greet the engineers at the landing platform. Perfect. That makes the sniper scene available, and it advances the plot quickly.
It does, and it also gives us a chance to see a great X-wing incursion, bombing strafing run, which we get a nice taste of what's to come because we need that. We need to know that the rebels aren't a bunch of wimps that are just sitting here biting their fingernails. They are willing to go on strikes if necessary. But they don't have the forces to take on the Empire directly. They have to pick and choose. And yet
it's a guerrilla warfare.
It's still the impressiveness. I think this movie really impressed upon me the power of an X-Wing, especially a squadron of X-Wing.
I got that. It's funny you say this because I had the exact same feeling with that scene where they are conducting the targeted strike on the base where the engineers are. I had the same feeling. I'm like, oh, these are professionals. These guys are really good. They're good at what they do. They're not just this ragtag bunch of guys we found at the bar. We loaded them in an X-Wing and they're the best.
Some farm boy, used to bullseye womp rats with his T-16 back home.
You can't recruit the best all the time. So you got to take what you got. And instead you get the feeling they got some really crack pilots here and probably a lot of ex-military veterans. Speaking
of T-16, there's a scene where these two stormtroopers are walking along in, I think it's Scarif, and they're like, "Did you hear the rumor?" And the other one says, "Yeah, yes. They're gonna decommission the T-16."
Oh, it's about time that happened.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. So that was an Easter egg, obviously, but I love that stuff. That to me is is that all these guys talk about? They just talk about hardware and
it's like how guys talk about football. It's
or cars.
It's clearly what stormtroopers would talk about when they're on the job.
To me, it's cars. Yeah.
It's it's male bonding. We don't talk about how we feel. We talk about the T-16 models being discontinued, man.
Right.
I used to have one back home. I loved it. And those things were simple enough. You could tinker with them yourself. You didn't have to.
Like my Volkswagen Bug.
Exactly.
Pancake engine, rear mounted. So, okay. Before I forget, there's a tie into a movie that we saw that we reviewed. There always is. And that's because, we're following a logical progression here, sort of. And so that planet, I have the name of it, where Cassian meets the contact we were just talking about.
It's not even a planet. It's like this
asteroid,
bimodal asteroid thing, and the whole
city with the little bridge,
this tendril in between the two halves. Seems like a very tenuous place.
I hope there's not a lot of tidal forces in that system.
Exactly. Because I saw that, I'm like, wow, visually that's super cool, but doesn't seem like a good idea.
So it must have been necessary. And I was thinking about this today. it was one of those great ideas that comes in the shower. And I'm thinking there must be a reason they had to tie those two asteroids together with a hard link.
Right.
So is it like the yttrium's on one side and the beryllium's on the other, and they need the two, you know what I mean? Because they're using so much of it, and this one's rich in this, and this is, so I'm like making all, I mean, that's where my mind goes, right?
I think the visual artist said, oh, you know, we're always trying to think of how can we make new cool things in this universe. I know we'll have two halves joined together in the middle.
Yeah.
That'll look cool.
It did. It looked great.
It looked very cool.
So they're walking through the marketplace, and everybody's got these like half dome hats. They look like they're metal, right? Domes on their heads. That seems to be a Star Wars thing, but it also seems to be like a throwback to the traditional Asian conical bamboo hats, right? And it's raining.
Everything,
and it's crowded, and there's
Blade Runner-ish.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
Was that a tribute to Blade Runner or what? I mean, to me, that was a tribute.
I don't know that if it's a tribute or not, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
To bring up a prequel for a moment, the episode 2, Attack of the Clones, the opening sequence with the assassin, doesn't take place on Coruscant, does it? It takes place in some other world, I think. I can't remember. But
anyway, Coruscant. You're talking about when they're going to get Padme with the little like centipedes.
Yeah, and then they're in a bar later on.
You want to buy some death sticks?
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that guy.
That scene, the alleyways, the streets are all Blade Runner-ish, but it's like a clean Blade Runner world. Everything is nice, neat, and clean, but it has the same kind of Tokyo packed, neon lights everywhere, super dense architecture.
I got that feeling too. When I see Coruscant, I think Tokyo. A lot of those scenes, and I think when if you ever watch the Clone Wars TV show, a lot of stuff takes place on Coruscant. You'll get that vibe too. I think a lot of it has to do with the actual like Arabish like characters, since they're foreign characters to the normal Western alphabet, the Arabic alphabet that we are used to. They look like they could be kanji or something of that nature. Once you realize that they're one-to-one substitution, that goes away. But but also a lot of the languages that are spoken by the different species seem to have some Asian overtones, African overtones, like that kind of thing, in order to make them non-Western, non-recognizable to Westerners. You know, so I think that you're right. So maybe I did overthink that, but I don't know. Anyway,
well, look, all art is inspired by art that came before. So even if you found set designers who said, oh no, I wasn't thinking about that at the time, they might have not have been consciously thinking about it. But I suspect if you spoke to them, you're like, hell yeah, I was inspired by that. I loved that movie as a kid. I built that into it.
Did you, speaking of which, this is completely off topic, you know, the classic Hopper Nighthawks, right? Is that Hopper?
I know the film.
No. I meant the painting. It's like a diner.
Oh, yeah. It's Hopper. Yeah.
That's Hopper, right? So it's so I just saw one where they show the Pulp Fiction guys. They show they show Samuel in the booth with the gun pointed at, and they show Honey Bunny up on the table like this, you know, and it's that Mexican standoff, like 3-person standoff like moment done in that style of painting, and it's
got to be one of the most parodied,
absolutely wonderful
of all time.
Oh yeah, it's great, iconic, almost as bad as Mona Lisa.
Edward. I'm sitting here the whole time, I'm like, what's his first name? Edward Hopper.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking, I'm like, Grace. No, it's not Grace.
The inventor of Fortran, Grace Hopper.
Good stuff.
Okay, so here I've got a random point. Nice appearance of Vader's castle, which was a design done by Ralph McQuarrie for the original trilogy, which was never used. Yes,
I think I remember. In fact, it may be one of the books or something that you gave me that where I saw that matte painting, that actual concept painting, I should say.
He did a couple. I recall seeing at least 2 that were used as the inspiration for episode 3 with the battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin on
Which
the volcanic planet. And so that was very inspired by Macquarie's drawings. And then, of course, this castle, which was very close to what he drew.
So a couple things with the castle. So the castle is built in such a way that it's using like hydroelectric lava power.
I know, isn't that great? I love that they pan in. There's a little lava flow coming out the bottom, and they're like, yeah, they're probably using a little generator there to,
And then in the back, it's like Hoover Dam. It's like sucking it all in into some kind of like, turbine. And then, so what is Vader like doing? Like they needs that much power. Of course, it's all about power and control with the Sith.
He's got to keep the bath warm. We don't know how much time he spends suspended in that liquid bath.
So apparently, according to the canonical comic books, which I have not read, but I've meta read because I've had other people review them and I've gone and watched their YouTube videos. Thank you all very much. Because that saves me from having to go purchase these really expensive things or try to track them down. Because these things are collectible. But they, he's apparently spends a lot of time in the Bacta tank because he's in pain all the time.
Yeah, he's in pain all the time. Exactly. So it makes sense. He's got the breathing apparatus. It's basically like being in scuba all the time.
Kind of. Yeah.
A little relief.
Having shingles all at the same time.
Right.
So he's so there's that castle. So you have Disney Plus. I have Disney Plus. We can stream this stuff anytime I want. That's what I love. On Disney Plus, they just came out before Halloween with this cartoon Lego style called Terrifying Tales. It takes place at Vader's castle. So there's a scene where Vader's Lego character and the Emperor Palpatine's Lego character are they're starting the show, and so Vader's like, what do you think of my palace, and Palpatine's like, it's a little spot on, isn't it? I mean, you could say evil castle without saying like evil castle, right?
Yeah.
That's wonderful. But I do. I love it. It's perfect for Vader. It's black and red, which are his favorite colors. And
an interesting, again, a nod to the original movie. They made his lenses red.
I noticed that,
which they were in episode 4.
I noticed that.
But they never were again. There were only that in episode 4.
Yeah, the tie-in with episode 4 is there's so many links, and that's a great one right there. When they made stylistic choices, like when they do the stolen Death Star plans, and you see that dot representing a sphere, and the equatorial dish is right on the equator, which it was in episode 4 for whatever reason, and then when they actually built it, of course, it's above or below, depending on your orientation, the equator, equatorial trench. So that was neat that they preserved that. And when Krennic and Tarkin are in the room and they're going to destroy Jeddah, the original geometry is on that wall.
Absolutely picked up on that. Yeah,
it's hard to miss.
All the computer displays, that the same ones they used in episode 4 to target Alderaan. Yeah.
And the buttons and the lights and the costuming is impeccable.
So the visual vocabulary of Star Wars is very set.
70s technology.
There's only a few things that you need to reinforce it. And they have that all down pat. It was completely believable. As like, this is a Star Wars universe, no question about it. All the ships felt right. The interiors all felt right. Everything was
the shuttle. There's a scene on the shuttle where the defecting pilot hits a bunch of toggle switches, and I'm like, I want toggle switches now. I don't know why, but I just want to go. It's always like 4. You always have to do like.
I know exactly the scene you're talking about. It was 3 because I had the same feeling. Like,
3.
You got to hit 3 switches to make that happen. Cool.
Love it.
Here's the thing I love about Star Wars control panels. There's like 5 buttons, but they control the entire thing. Like,
Yeah.
5 buttons.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's redundant buttons. So if you just hit one with your elbow, that's not enough. You have to press to do like one function.
Absolutely. Going through my other notes here.
Oh, Yavin 4. We get to Yavin 4.
Yavin 4, yeah,
The Rebels.
not only Yavin 4, but that one lone guy sitting out there in that little pod with the radar speed gun trap
Right.
that he, for whatever reason, points at all the ships as they come or leave.
So this is interesting, and I'll bet somebody knows why. I don't. So if you know it, put it down below. But when they come in to Yavin 4, he's got the gun. When Rogue One leaves, he doesn't do anything. He's just
Right. It's only for
there and
incoming.
he looks at Rogue One, but he doesn't give them. Is that because it's an unscheduled launch, an unauthorized launch? Maybe something.
Well, I assume he's there to make sure that you're not exceeding the speed limit when you're coming in for landing. I don't know.
That could be.
But he also has that Star Wars domed helmet, that is very popular, particularly in the older movies. Everybody on the Tantive 4 has got one of those things.
And at the end of the movie, they still do. And it's a teardrop shape. And it's obvious that like
bicycling helmet.
You don't. Yeah. It's a Tour de France kind of thing. It's obvious that you don't have a high back chair to sit in when you have those on.
Right.
Just like fly forward. That would be a bad ergonomic design. Yeah. The sticks that Jin walks around with at the end of the movie. She's got these ninja.
I thought she was going to pull those out and just do like a martial arts routine.
I had no idea what those things were until today. I had to look it up.
I don't know.
So the uniform that she stole was from an aircraft marshaller.
Oh, right? Okay. So they're like guiding sticks.
So when they land the shuttle, there's somebody, a guy or girl, somebody doing this. Yeah. Why he or she would be part of the boarding party, who knows? Yeah. But apparently that's what that is, and she just carries them around to keep the guys, the disguise.
Well, I guess you want to see a manifest. It's down there.
Yeah, we keep it. Doesn't everybody? But he is. But you had to keep reminding yourself. I had to keep reminding myself. He's a good guy, but he's still an Imperial pilot in an Imperial pilot uniform the whole time. So his Imperial buddies would know the procedures, and he would know what he could get away with, and they would believe him because why wouldn't they? He's in uniform.
That's true. That's a good point. I actually kind of forgot that he was an Imperial, when he comes to be more featured in the action. Yeah. So that makes sense.
Well, at one point he reminded me, I probably missed it the first time. In fact, I'm almost sure I missed it the first time. But when he gets caught by Saw Gerrera's men at the beginning, he says, if you could just look past the uniform for a second, we're all on the same side here,
Right.
He keeps saying,
well,
Galen Urso sent me.
We found this on it. We took this from them. They didn't take it from me. I gave it to them. That's why I came here.
I gave it to them. Yes. They didn't take it.
But also
the big distinction,
he seems very scatterbrained later on. And I just chalked that up to, well, he had the brain suck.
Yes.
He's lucky he can still talk at all, really.
So there was a very slight, I had a little bit of incredulity of that on that point in the first movie. I thought, well, didn't he have his brains like wiped? And then it gradually starts coming back. I thought that, but this time I found the excuse, and the excuse is that Saw Gerrera says people tend to lose their minds, so he leaves it open that it's possible that the effects could be different for everyone. At least that's what I thought.
When they find him in jail, he's clearly rattled. He doesn't know where he's at or who he is. And
dude, he just had an octopus like mind meld with him. I mean, that would be pretty unnerving, I think,
I would imagine it would be. I hope I never have a chance to find out. So let's talk about what the denouement of this movie. It maintains it's almost a requirement of Star Wars films, because this is how Lucas makes all his films. There has to be a 2-track action finale. So this movie holds with that. You have the battle in orbit above Scarif at the entry gate. Meanwhile, our intrepid heroes are trying to solve their problem at the transmission tower.
So there's three though. I would argue. So there's the land battle, there's the air battle, and then
That's
there's
true.
the heist.
That's true. There is the land battle because you have the other problem of we have to get the connection so that we can transmit. So the pilot's working on that, while Jen and Cassian are working on getting the tape, while the rebels are above in orbit trying to get the gate open.
Yeah, it's nice how that flows too, because the objectives change. And it would be easy to get lost. So it's kind of neat because they go down, basically they have no plan. They have the end game, but they have nothing. They have the beginning and the end. They have no middle. They don't know what they're going to do.
Nope.
And then they're like, well, we need a distraction. So you guys go out there and light it up, make 10 men look like 100. Right. So I love that line. And 10 men seem like 100. And they get into it. They're like, yeah, we can do that. We can do that. Because when they're on the shuttle, it's clear that the volunteers, they're really kind of like, we don't know what we're doing. And then once they have once they have a plan, once Cassian gives them an order, then they're like, yeah, I can do that.
Right.
You want me to like light it up? Yeah, I'll light it up.
Yeah.
So that's what we're here for.
You're absolutely right. There are 3 tracks going on simultaneously. So that is kind of a new thing. And each of those perils, they're all very good. And I would argue that the space battle above Scarif is probably one of the best space battles in any of the Star Wars.
I can't think of a better one. I'm really racking my brain. I mean, obviously, the attack on the Death Star in the first movie is amazing. Obviously, there were a lot of at one point there was a scene in Return of the Jedi that held the record for having the most sprites in it at the same time in one frame.
Yeah.
But all of that's probably been superseded. It's just so exciting.
The 3-dimensionality of it, the things that they're flying through, the camera angles, constantly changing, very unique, different. Whatever team masterminded all the shots and the kinematics of it, stellar job. And some also really cool ideas, like they disable the one Death Star, and then the fish admiral, who's not Admiral Akbar but some other fish character, says, bring the Hammerhead Corvette, I have an idea. And they decide, ramming speed, we're gonna crash one Death Star or one Star Destroyer into another. That was a very cool thing that's never been done before. Really nice.
So there's a couple tie-ins that if you haven't seen Star Wars Rebels, so apparently that Hammerhead Corvette is introduced in Star Wars Rebels, and that was a nod to the TV series.
And that actually came out before this movie?
It was either under development or it came out. I didn't check the dates on Star Wars Rebels. I could probably do that right now. But I know that Dave Filoni, Pittsburgher, by the way, who he often wears a Pittsburgh Pirate hat.
Cool.
Which I've been known to be seen in.
You wear his hat?
What's that?
You wear his hat?
I wish he could wear one of mine. I sell them on my Mercari website. Anybody can have one.
Plug.
Pittsburgh Pat. So, of course, today I'm flying my Rebel, regalia. It seemed appropriate. So the Starbird, as it's called, it's that General Syndulla at one point, when the rebels are going to come to the rescue, once Rogue One's in peril and they get the word and everybody's going to go to the rescue, there's the scene where there's an operator.
Yes, he throws his headset down
and he just starts running.
I got to tell people. Yeah.
It's like, I actually took a little snippet, put it on my YouTube channel. It says, when you're the only one that knows, that like when you realize you're the only one that knows.
That's right.
He like looks around for a second, like anybody else, and then he runs. So when he does that,
the right stuff, there's a scene in The Right Stuff that's like that.
I think I remember it.
I can't remember what it is he knows, but
he goes to Gene.
Sputnik. I think it's Sputnik's been launched. He's running down the hallway to inform the president or somebody else of
oh,
same thing. The only person who knows. Yeah.
Okay, I'm confusing that with a different scene then. Okay, yeah, the that there's a announcement over the loudspeaker when the it's like General Syndulla to the something something. So that's a character that's in Rebels. The main character, the main pilot of the ship called the Ghost is named Hera Syndulla, and she's one of those green ladies with the
Yes, the head protrusions.
yeah, I forget the race's name,
It's like
yeah,
oh gosh,
I can't believe I forget that right now. But the but her dad
what
was
with the dual
general.
lightsabers? Who's a Mandalorian? Same species. Yeah.
Oh, Kit Fisto.
No, Kit Fisto
No, Kit
male.
Fisto is a different species.
Kit Fisto's male, and there's the
Yeah,
woman.
he's like a squiddish kind of. He's got the
Right. But
many
there's
of
the
them.
woman that has the two head protrusions that look like long braids. And
Yeah.
she uses the dual lightsabers, and she goes against the character with the
Oh, yeah, that's she's
who is that?
oh gosh, I can't remember now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Either.
sorry. I have to prep for that.
Yeah. It's a minor character for me, not a minor character for modern viewers because they're really into all these subsidiary shows that I've never gotten into.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that. And then there's the robot Chopper. In fact, I sent you a thing about how many tools Chop has. C1 1 OP, I think it is. Anyway, yeah, apparently he has a little cameo, just like R2 and 3PO have a cameo, right? On Yavin 4. Mm-hmm.
They do have a cameo. Yeah.
So there's a lot. So the Hammerhead was a tie-in with Rebels, basically what
I see. I see.
And okay. I guess the actual ship is there too. The Ghost is somewhere seen. It's like a diamond-shaped ship that flies around during the Battle of Scarif as well, which I didn't particularly pick up, but I'm sure you could find easily. But yeah, again, the X-Wings, only like 5 or 6 of them get through, and a U-Wing, which is a troop carrier apparently, and they're just causing havoc down on Scarif, you know. And there's that great scene where Baze, who's the heavy gunner, right, who's friend of Chirrut's, he takes that like, you know, rocket launcher and he like smacks that AT-AT right in the ear, and it turns, and then it kind of goes.
Oh, so that was a great moment, because then you think, well, I'm cooked. And then, you know, salvation from the skies, guy with an X-Wing comes down, and there's this great scene where after he shoots it and it blows up, they cut to him and he's in the cockpit. He's like, yeah,
that's what it's all about, baby.
And then the audience is like, woo.
Dude, I did. I'm sitting here and I'm like, yeah, I forgot. because Baze looks at the after the shot, and he's standing in the gun sight. It's like, that should have worked.
Should have. I'm done.
It should have worked. And then he's saved. Yeah. And that's the great, you know, and then that spirit of like the boys in the air saving the boys on the ground.
Right.
I mean, I say boys, but you know.
No, it's a World War II thing. It's like Dunkirk.
Exactly.
You know,
it's exactly what it is. It's
totally.
And that's where we got all of these like fighter scenes in the first movie.
Well, I was thinking
all from war movies.
I thought about that very much, because every time I see one of these movies now, and there are these the daring young pilots and their flying machines. I'm thinking, well, in a truly technologically advanced civilization, we know now it would just be drones fighting each other.
Of course,
there would be
your
no
drones against my drone.
Yeah, that's it. It would just be who has the better drones. But there'd be no drama in that, would there?
Well, but that's the thing. It would be Star Trek drama. It would be Star Trek drama. Report to the termination chamber.
But when these movies came out, well, we know that Lucas substituted, before he had the special effects shot, he substituted in World War II shots and asked the executives of 20th Century Fox, okay, imagine when I get the final shots, this is what it's going to be like, you know.
I have to invent the technology first.
Yeah. So it's a lot of Star Wars in these battle sequences are throwbacks to the era of our grandparents and the movies that they saw. But future movies, if they wanted to be technologically accurate, would be dull.
Well, of course,
it's going to be the same challenge. They face the same challenge that the writer of mysteries or or thrillers face now is that so many perils that you used to be able to write for your character are solved because, and then I got out my cell phone, called the police.
Or I asked Google for the answer.
Right. So you, as a modern writer, always has to find a way to separate the character from their cell phone.
Sure. It's too boring. Nobody wants to read text messages. Yeah. Nobody wants to read that on a printed page. I mean, that would be a good like homework assignment for writing class, but try to make some drama on the through text messaging, which could be done. But again, it's the, nobody wants to see the F-35 who can stand off almost over the horizon, shoot down the entire Iraqi Air Force. I mean, like that's fine, but
no drama.
It's not dogfighting. And in fact, at one point we see Jin on the tower. And so she's at eye level with the dogfighting. And that, I love that scene with the tie with the flat wings.
That is a great scene. And you just made the second point I was going to make. The first point is that she's just standing there taking in all the battle action that's going on around her. And it reinforces the fact that I'm just like one player in this whole drama that's unfolding as this rebel attack goes on. So that's point one. But point two, those really kind of wicked looking bat-shaped TIE fighters where the occupation pod, the sphere, is held below these very aggressive dart wings. It's
so interceptor.
There've been a lot of different incarnations of TIE fighters over the years, like Kylo Ren gets his own special fighter, Darth Vader gets his own special TIE fighter. But those are kind of some of the most vicious looking TIE fighters I think that the ship creators have come up with.
So at some point, because I remember the standard TIE fighters, Darth Vader was the only one in the first movie that had a different one. He had like next year's model, he had like the advanced,
the special one. Yes.
The prototype. Yeah. So at some point, the creators of Rogue One had to sit here and say, we're making everything. This is before Star Wars. We're making everything accurate. We got to do this. We got to do that. But you know what? We're going to have to throw this out the window because we're going to make some really cool ships.
But there were only a few of them. There were only a handful of those Batwing looking things. The rest of them were all the standard TIE fighter. So it didn't bother me that there were some special models that were being seen.
I'm cool with it because I just love TIE fighters and I love Star Wars ships. It's fun stuff.
Frozen.
I'm frozen.
Hopefully you come back. Not sure if you can still hear.
I can hear you.
Okay, now you're unfrozen.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, that happened to you once or twice. It's not that big a deal, I don't think.
And you as well.
Yeah, but I mean, I like me some TIE fighters, so I'll give them that.
It's a completely impractical design, the standard TIE fighter, because you have no view. you can't see anything going on beside you. You can only see what's directly in front of you or behind you. And presumably, there are all kinds of cameras and whatnot. We don't care about the technology details.
Yeah, it's a Tesla. It's got cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
So, the Force is with me. I'm one with the Force.
Right. So this is the question that I had the first time I saw it, which is, is this guy just a fanboy? He's just an overly enthusiastic hanger-on who's associated with the Jedi but isn't part of them, and he really wishes he was. So is it wish fulfillment, or? And this is the view that I have now that the other movies have come out since then that have kind of emphasized the fact that you don't necessarily have to be a Jedi in order to be Force sensitive. So yeah, this time around, I'm like, okay, the guy's tuned in with the Force in some way. He's not as close to it as a Jedi would be, presumably, but damn, he's blind. So he can't be doing everything he's doing, shooting TIE fighters out of the air based on sound alone. Plus
So he actually makes fun of the fact they use his blindness in a joke.
Oh, I wrote that down. I did.
Yeah. They put the sacks over his head. He said, "Are you kidding me?
I'm blind."
I'm blind. But I love it. And but yeah, I mean, he's the one that tells Baze to run when the AT-AT comes. And there's also this great scene with the AT-AT I have to little aside. The lizard looking dude with the big teeth, like, and
Yeah.
he says, oh my gosh, what does he say? He has this kind of, he says Carabast at one point. Carabast at. And Carabast is basically like, gosh darn it, except a little stronger.
It's like
And
frack
that's
from Battlestar
also a
Galactica.
tie-in with Rebels. That wasn't used until Star Trek or Star Wars Rebels. So I think that Rebels did come out before this movie.
I see.
But he also says, so I'll find it. You keep talking.
What else was I going to bring up?
Well, I'll keep talking.
Yeah, go ahead.
So he shoots the TIE fighter. He warns Baze. Here's the clincher for me though, is at the end, when he has to hit the switch.
Mm-hmm.
We know that the troopers that are shooting at him and missing are the elite troopers.
Right.
They're in the shiny, metallic uniforms.
There's got to be a reason they're missing. There must be.
Because we know they came in and kicked butt when they were unleashed on the beach. They kicked. Oh, and by the way, the shape of the archipelago from Krennic's tower, from the top, did it remind you of anything?
I didn't really pay attention to that.
Reminded me, it looks like the windows from the throne room in Return of the Jedi. Spokes, broken panes.
Oh no. Well, I did notice the windows actually, but when he's inside looking out, what you have is triangle pointing down, triangle pointing up, triangle pointing down. That's the window structure.
That's the window structure, but the landmass and the water is made to look like one of those windows. I'm almost sure of it.
So those windows are exactly the same as the front of the TIE fighter. TIE fighter has that same window structure. Yeah. So it's all part of the Star Wars design vocabulary. Yes. They take all of those same motifs and repeat them in different ways.
Yeah, it's the it's when they first, like, when he says light it up, and Cassian gives the order, and then on the ground the guy, like, they start the detonations and the charges, and they start going up. And I love, there's all the carnage on the ground, and then it's real quiet, and they're in the control room. You just see these, like,
for
a minute, even Krennic, huh?
He says, "Are we blind?" It's like something like, "Mobilize the garrison."
That was great. Yeah, it's a perfect time for him to lose his cool.
Of course, absolutely.
Mobilize his forces. Yeah.
And the action sequence in the tape room, wildly impractical, but. but great. You have to.
It's a Bond film, like you said. It's a Bond film.
You're
hanging. The girl's hanging.
You have to operate these remote manipulators in order to extract the physical tape, and those are real. We have those at work. Massive data. The only way you can store it is in a huge tape library.
Oh, really?
And you access those tapes with a robot that just goes back and forth, and there's a grabbing arm that goes up and down, and you say, "I want tape 5X," and it goes zzz, and it goes, pulls it out, and gets it.
No way. So it's based on real, like, technology.
Sure, absolutely.
So I found what the lizard guy says. He says Sakala at some point, and it just a throwaway line, like Sakala. What it could just, what does that mean, right? So apparently somebody took that and wrote, like, a subsequent novel. Like, it didn't mean anything at the time. And they took it and wrote a novel, and they made it to be a character who was a singer named Sakala, and she was of his race. And when the Empire occupied their planet, she was a resistance leader, something like a Josephine Baker, like a yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool.
So here's a minor quibble. Jin makes her impassioned plea that rebellions are built on hope, and let's go. And Mon Mothma says, Yeah, we don't have concurrence from the council. It's too risky.
It's got to be unanimous.
It's got to be unanimous. So they basically give up. And she's in the hangar on Yavin 4, and they're like, "Hey, we're all with you. Let's go." Okay, let's go. So they make their incursion into the data center. And then our headset wearer, who's monitoring communications, gets wind. He throws his headset down. He's like, "There's an attack." And then they're like, "Oh, let's go."
Well, not only that, but
That's
the
all there was
admiral.
to it. That's all there was to it. They're like, "Oh, they're mounting their own attack. Well, I guess we should go then."
The squid guy was already going to go, right?
Yeah.
Because he says, "Wait, well, I have to talk to the admiral." Oh, he's already going.
Yeah.
We hear that, So it was like Mon Mothma has lost control of her.
She has.
She's at this point, the military has taken over.
Right. But it just kind of cracked me up that, like, as soon as they got word that, oh, a smaller group of us has gone off and mounted their own attack, the entire rebel fleet shows up like 5 minutes later. Here's the great thing about the Star Wars universe. You can go anywhere in the galaxy in like minutes.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Nothing's far away. Nothing.
Not really.
The only thing that saves you if you're trying to hide is people don't look there. Like Dagobah. Nobody goes there. Why would you?
Swamp.
Yeah, it's the only way you can hide yourself, because other than that, it's not because it's hard to get to. It's just like, wouldn't bother. Sheer numbers, the number of habitable worlds is, who knows, millions, billions.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Somebody's calculated it. The Edu, right? So when they go to Edu, it's not just like there's a hurricane. There's a lot of hurricanes. The whole atmosphere is nothing but little dirt, like circular, patterns. It's all hurricanes. It just reinforces the Star Wars universe that every habitable world is one biome.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's another thing. I was thinking about that also. The only way to have an action series set in a multi-world universe is to just allow all different races, creatures, and beings to interchangeably breathe each other's atmosphere, translate each other's languages, because otherwise every creature would have to be in a suit, breathing their own special gases at their own pressures and atmospheres. And there would be no story. You'd be so caught up in describing all this, like, oh, well, to be realistic, we have to cover this and this and this.
All right. So Squid Guy, who's like the second in command to Saw Gerrera, he's got some kind of breathing apparatus because they're an aquatic creature. And in fact, there's a whole series of stuff in the non-movie, the TV series stuff.
It happens.
The squid guys and the starfish guys, like, they live on the same planet. They're two sentients on the same planet. They sometimes fight. But here's a good thing about breathing apparatus. Saw Gerrera, every once in a while, he'll take this medical mask and go,
Yep.
Is he doing drugs?
Yeah. So, that's not what occurred to me. My impression both times I saw it was that this guy's been beat up. He's a wreck physically. So I'm not surprised he needs some kind of he's basically like an elderly person with an oxygen tank.
So I thought about that too. But here's what made me think
he seems a bit nuts. So it's also believable that he's on something.
So here's what makes me think it. And it's the end of his end. When he tells Jin to run and keep the rebellion alive.
Yeah.
And then he goes and he faces the onslaught, the rocks, the debris, the
blast wave.
He takes it and he like rips it off, and as if to say, I am going to meet my fate without any, without any, I'm going to meet it.
Yes.
Without any assistance. Here I am.
I definitely took note of when he defiantly ripped the mask away as he was about to die, which doesn't make sense unless your suggestion is the correct one. So it may not be drugs. It could be like smoking. It could be
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah. I
this
mean,
is
it could be a mild
like a
caffeine or something.
hookah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Could
Something
be a
trivial
stimulant.
like that, which
Yeah.
people use all over the place.
I don't
But
think
yeah,
it's a
that makes much
hallucinogen
more
or
sense
anything like that.
for him to defiantly throw it away.
Yeah.
To face it clear-headed as he meets his end.
That's the word I was looking for. Clear-headed. What about the death of Red 5? The Battle of Scarif. We get to hear Red Leader say, Red 5, what are you doing? And he's like, I can't, there's too many.
Yeah. So to me, that's just like you have to have one of those in every Star Wars.
But that opens up the room for Luke to become Red 5, right?
Oh, that's yeah. I didn't make that tie-in. And so
okay. All right.
That's serious fan service there. That's real detail.
That's what I was thinking. I don't know.
I missed that. Yeah.
Is that too much?
Because the thing is that when it comes to detail, I'm much more, I think a episode 5, 6 guy. I've probably seen episode 4 the least for whatever reason.
I mean, well, yeah, I get it. It's not as deep.
It's not as deep. Yeah. I mean, it's the great action film, the great swashbuckler that kicked it all off, but it's less deep. Yeah.
It's a nice film. It's a
not, nice film. It's a fun film.
Why would Lucas go into the lore in any greater depth? I mean, actually, you read some of his scripts, he does, and it's good that those were edited out. It would have been too
ponderous,
too geeky, too ponderous.
No, it wouldn't.
Better word.
It would have been more like Lord of the Rings, where it's like, oh man, you're gonna make me learn another race name.
It's the same with Dune.
I can't follow all of it. Yeah, it's just too much.
Yeah, that's the thing with Dune. I know I've talked to only a few people have seen the new Dune, but they've said they were people that knew a little bit about Dune. But the one guy said his wife basically was like lost. She had no idea what was going on.
I haven't seen it yet. I would like to see it because everybody says it's if you're going to see it, it's a cinematic experience. You want to see a big screen, great sound system, all the rest of it. That's why we have the movies. But when I think back to when the David Lynch version came out in 1980, whatever, he disavowed it. He wasn't happy with it. But what they gave a glossary out to the audience. I remember that famously from the time.
It's the only movie that I ever know of where they passed out a study guide.
Right.
That tells you something.
I haven't seen it. The last time I watched that version was probably in the early 90s. And I remember thinking, yeah, it was all right. I liked it,
It was fine. They ran out of money for the special effects at the end, so you could see the production lines around the worms. That's fine. That didn't bother me. I don't care about that.
It was very long, and I watched it on like a very lazy Sunday afternoon, which is probably the perfect time to watch it.
Yeah,
but I haven't gone back since.
Well, yeah, I don't know much about the new one. The only thing is the director is the same director that did the sequel to Blade Runner. So,
I Denis Villeneuve, something like that.
That's it.
Yeah, I didn't know that he directed 2064 Blade Runner, I think it is.
Yeah, whatever.
I still think we should do that movie at some point.
Yeah, we should do that.
I was looking for the problem is that in order to have these conversations, the movie has to have some meat and things to talk about.
That has a lot of meat.
It does, and I think it would be a good one. And I only saw it once.
I've only seen it once too, which is amazing because I am a huge Blade Runner fan. But
I'm shocked that but I could see why you might not want to go back because the classic is, you don't want to distill. You don't want to dilute, not distill. The opposite. You don't want to dilute it.
No, I don't know if that. I feel like I should have watched it about 5 times by now, and the fact that I haven't, I think says something to me, but I'll watch it again.
Because I think it's a one-off. And I think that making a sequel to any classic is a huge danger and you probably shouldn't do it. And I went in expecting to be extremely disappointed and I came out thinking, oh, well, that wasn't so bad. And that's like,
the music was great.
music was great. I immediately got the soundtrack. It's a Hans Zimmer soundtrack, which
Yeah.
of course he's also done Dune, because he's basically the modern John Williams. Everybody wants Hans Zimmer.
And I like his music. I don't like. Yeah, I just like it.
To come back to Rogue One, this is another point that I had written. What do you need? What do you need to be a Star Wars film? You need John Williams.
John Williams has the credit, though. I mean, he has a credit at the end. It says original Star Wars music by John Williams. Now
he has the credit because they use
his motif.
A few leitmotifs. They use the Force theme,
the Vader theme.
They use the Vader theme. They use the generic Star Wars theme anthem. So they had to credit him for that. But the composer they got for this, the music is, it's passable. It's fine movie music. It heightens the drama at moments of tension, as it should, but is unnoticeable, kind of weak, and that's missing from this film.
It's mildly distracting at times. When Jin and Cassian are hugging on the beach, they're about to die. It's a little too much. And in that scene, do you notice that Jin's facing the explosion and Cassian's not?
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. Is that symbolic in some way?
She seems stronger than him anyway.
Agreed.
She always seems more like, I don't have that much to live for anyway. She has very much, I could lose it all today and I'd be fine with it.
A man with a sharp stick how did it go? A man with a sharp stick with nothing to lose can carry the day.
Can carry the day. Yeah. She just didn't
She's
seem
that
like
person.
She didn't have much to live for.
Yeah.
So that scene made sense to me. Cassian was much more heartfelt. He could be the cold-blooded killer if necessary, as he is in the beginning of the film, and as he almost is halfway through the film. But he cares. He's got he at the end of the day, he has a big heart. And
he knows that all of the things he's done have taken their toll on his soul. In fact, he says as much.
He's seen too much for somebody who's as young as he is.
He says as much when he gets the ragtag group together and they're going to go on Rogue One before it's called Rogue One, which is a neat scene too, where the pilot gets to, name the title, call sign, fake call sign. But he says, like, we've all done things we're ashamed of and we can't let that be for nothing. So we have to go. We have to go.
We've been thieves, assassins, spies, and that's another point that I had written down was
spies.
This is a very heavy film,
because
it's not cartoonish action, it's not swashbuckling action. Everybody dies. Every last one of the characters dies, so that when the briefing scene in episode 4 takes place, they're like, oh well, this information came to us at great cost. You're like, yeah, of course it did, right? This movie, you're like, it really came.
Here's the bloody
cost. So fortunately it's balanced enough that you didn't leave the theater feeling depressed, because Leia says at the end, this is hope, and what comes next. But
it's dark.
It's unusual for a Star Wars film, and that it feels very realistic. That it made me think of World War II and the French Resistance. That we engaged in sorties against the Nazis, knowing that many of us would not come back.
Yep,
and that most of us would not live to see the outcome that we're fighting for. That's
a good point. It's a very World War II movie.
I felt that heavily today. Not to, again, I'm not going to diverge into politics, as we always try to avoid that when we have these more lighthearted conversations about fun things.
Yeah.
You can't help but frame movies and art and books according to the times in which you live. The weight of that sacrifice of fighting against something that seems overpowering against great odds, I feel that very keenly today in a way that I did not in 2016.
I know you do. I tell you this. I'll lighten the mood a little bit. When K2, when they're going to, I'll give you a K2 line where they're all gonna back Jin and go on the thing. And K2 comes up and says, "I'll be there for you too, Jin. I have to." Cassian told me that I had to.
I know. I love that. That's such. All of his lines are good. All of his lines are good.
All right. Last thing, we can go on, but we have to address this before we quit.
Well, let's see. I have the last thing too. That's it.
The Vader scene.
So my note, which my pad went off, but the note just says Vader Unleashed.
Unbelievable.
So there's a famous, I don't know if it's famous. There's a memorable line for me when Lucas was talking about, well, what do I do for the prequels? I can't just have Vader running across the galaxy killing people.
Yeah, you can.
So they gave you a little bit of that at the end of this movie because you've never seen Vader go berserk. What could Vader do if he just lets it all out? If he doesn't restrain himself in any way? This movie shows you.
So there's a couple, if I take the whole scene and try to put it on YouTube, I get a copyright violation. So I broke up into smaller pieces. There's one scene in the hallway. We can break this up. I'd love to break this up. But the one scene that I really like is where he's got the guy pinned to the roof, and then he takes all of their weapons.
Yeah.
And then he backslashes the guy, cuts him in half, basically, falls down.
Yeah.
And then he takes care of the guys in front of him. I think I called that moment when you stop pretending they're on your level.
Right.
Like he is just dominate. So, his lightsaber goes on. They're like and then that's the scene of the guy in the front. Like, he's like, what do nervous. I do? Well, he needs to get the command to fire.
Yeah.
And he fires and he goes, "Can you still hear me?" I think I bumped my microphone. Okay, good.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
So he goes, he gets the command to fire, but right before that, I think I called that little blip the moment when you questioned all of your life choices. Because the guy's got this expression on his face. Great acting. He's got this expression on his face like, I'm going to die.
I'm going to die.
I'm going to die, but I'll fire, but it's useless. I'm going to die. Yeah. It's just wonderful. And then when the guy's pounding on the door.
Yeah. And then the
help us. The
red blade comes through the door.
Yes. It comes through his chest into the door. Yeah. He's pinned to the door probably for a moment.
Yes.
And then the guy who gets the tape runs and he gets one word.
Launch.
And it just has the perfect amount of desperation.
Yeah. And they grab the giant knife switch.
Yeah.
That releases all the latches.
Yeah.
And then there's that great scene. Okay. Vader's in space. He's standing on the platform out in space, cape blowing from whatever, the exhaust of the departing ship, presumably, watching it get away from him. Wonderful. I mean, that could have been, he could have been looking through a window, through a door, watching it go away. No, they're like, no, have him out on the platform in space, watching the Tantive 4 get away. Really nice.
The
whole sequence was like again, it was fan service because everybody always wanted to see this scene. Everybody always knew what Vader could do. It's never been on film. You just imagine. The closest you came was the sequence in Empire at the end where Vader starts throwing boxes at Luke and it's over. He's like, I'm going to put my saber down. I'm going to keep it on, but I'm going to hold it down this way. Let me show you what the dark side can really do. I'm through screwing around with you. So you knew what he could do. This time they show you, and it's just as violent as you imagined it would be.
That was great.
But bloodless, right? Very violent, but bloodless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the lighting is great. You see nothing, and then the blade is ignited and the hallway goes red. And everybody in the theater is like, yeah.
Oh, there was a cheer. There was an audible cheer that went up in the theater.
Yeah.
It was.
He's this weird, he's a strange character that he's the bad guy that you love. You know, you want to see him do his thing.
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, yeah, I'd play Luke, I'd play Han, but Vader was the guy.
Sure.
Vader was the guy. I mean, we didn't even know at that point that the whole story was about that character, but
You didn't know. You
we
thought it
had
was
no
about Luke,
idea,
and it
but
wasn't
it
about
was
him at
just the
all.
most intriguing character.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
You know?
He is intriguing because he's got two things going for him. One, supreme power, and two, mystery. What did you know about Vader? Nothing.
Nothing.
You didn't. You knew that he killed Luke's father, and that Obi-Wan said they were friends. He was a Jedi. He was the greatest star pilot he ever knew. That's all you know. So he has this great mysterious backstory. You may never find out what it is, but you want to know. You want to know about where'd this guy come from? What are his motivations?
Yeah.
So it's like so many things in like Gothic horror. You don't show the gore, you hint it, and the hinting makes it more powerful and makes you want to know more that you'll never get. Yeah. So I think that's my theory on why he was a very popular character.
I mean, the other scene where he's with Krennic, when Krennic goes to his castle, we didn't really talk about that much, but when Krennic's basically complaining about Tarkin's behavior, you know, when I
didn't like the choke scene there. I thought was gratuitous, and the laugh line there I didn't like. I thought it was cheesy. Don't get choked up on your ambitions.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that's a corny line, but the scene where the actor who plays Krennic is on the ground and he's just been force choked, but he's grinning because he knows that, like, he basically is. You mean I'm still in
charge?
Still in command.
Yeah.
And the another scene where he's great at losing his temper with Tarkin, right, where Tarkin says, well, I'm going to take over now. And he says, we stand here on my achievement, not yours. You know, was a great, it's like a boardroom scene or something. You know,
that was some good writing because to set up that conflict between him and Tarkin was a nice touch. Here's a whole backstory that you didn't know anything about. It fit in very neatly. It gave you a new bad guy. And he's a great bad guy, as we talked about before. He's very he's despicable. He's a hothead. He flares into temper. You never know when it's going to happen. And he gets the classic bad guy comeuppance at the end of the film.
Yeah, he's not afraid to get his hands dirty. Like he goes down there to take care of the problem.
See, Tarkin, when people are being killed on his behalf, he's on tea break. He's having tea, having his pinky extended. His troops are doing his dirty work for him. Krennic is not above killing people. In fact, I think he enjoys it a little bit. He kind of
enjoys it. And actually, he has a really cool blaster. It's really hard to see, but it looks like silver-plated, like Smith & Wesson 44 or something. It's almost like Old West style, but it's like chromed, and it's like, it's not your typical black blaster. Of course, how could it be? Man wears a white cape. He's got to have like a sidearm that's like, you know, man,
contrast.
It'd be like, you know, some kind of like man with the golden gun kind of thing. So yeah, it's very Bond-esque. You know,
he gets the classic when you're a really good bad guy, the scene where you're taken down pays off.
Yeah.
And the line that I like when they're on the transmission tower, as Jen is about to go and hit the send switch, he says, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
And she finally gets to tell him, "Well, I'm Urso's daughter."
It has to be confirmed. He may have suspected at some point, probably not. But if you don't have that moment, there's no there's no personal stake in that. You know, you just killed a random bad guy.
There's vendetta. There's revenge.
You got to let them know.
Years of harboring this resentment, and finally, I get my revenge on you.
Yeah, the revenge is only good if the other guy knows, right? So
that's right. He's got to know.
So then there's the other scene where he's on the catwalk, and he looks up, and he sees the Death Star on the horizon.
And he's killed by his own project,
hoisted on his own petard, literally. And I think I captioned that one. That moment when you know your job is going to kill you.
Yes.
Because man, that was not a good thing for him to see. He knows what's coming
No.
next.
No. Yeah. Yeah. But so here's another heavy theme.
Yeah.
I nobody else would feel this way, I don't think. You also have to be maybe in your 50s viewing a film like this to have this feeling. You view Star Wars films and the battle scenes in a different light. If you step outside the realm of disposable action adventure. But it's not just that for people like us, because we have a deep stake in this because it's been part of our lives since we were kids.
Sure.
Battles, fighting for freedom, struggling against men who are after nothing more than power for themselves and the suppression of others.
Insurmountable odds.
Insurmountable odds, and that it is a perpetual cycle. And I watched the Battle of Scarif having these grand thoughts, thinking, such is the state of man. After this battle is over, after this war is won, there'll be another and another and another and another.
You're right.
Because that is a species that we are. That's the kind of thoughts that I have watching films like this in my 50s.
I think I actually had those thoughts at the time. I think when I was deeply moved by this movie in some ways that I thought I shouldn't have been by a mere action film.
Yep, me too.
There's something about the Star Wars universe that engages my emotion. I could sit there and watch Terms of Endearment or any other movie that came out about the time Return of the Jedi came out. I wouldn't shed a tear, not a tear. And they're talking about real human drama and character development and all this kind of stuff. And yet, when Luke saves his father, I'm bawling, like.
No, you have to cut this out later. But
sure.
I will tell you, the scene that gets me every goddamn time, and it's the scene combined with the music, which I find very moving. When Luke puts Vader on the funeral pyre at the end of Jedi, he watches it. You see Vader burning. The camera pans back to Luke. He's looks like he's teary-eyed. The circle is complete. Then the camera's behind Luke, and it pans up as X-wings fly overhead, dropping fireworks in celebration. And that music, that John Williams music swells. That scene gets me every time.
Well, it's the end.
So let me.
It's the end of the epic.
Let me amend that. I got to tell you this. I think we've talked about this before. Coming out of the other side of the Trump presidency and being on tenterhooks for several days, wondering if Biden was going to win it because Pennsylvania needed to be won. That was the final piece of the puzzle. When it happened, I went online. Somebody had already made a film it was the end sequence from Jedi Special Edition, showing the celebrations on all the different planets that we saw during the trilogy, including Coruscant. And it, instead of the planet names, it said Pennsylvania, Arizona, and a couple of other states. I lost it. I mean, it was like there was this sounds cheesy, but this parallel between this fictional universe where we've enjoyed ourselves and our actual lives, where it literally felt as if we had overthrown an emperor and an empire.
I remember when you posted the scene of the reactor. Yeah, we did it. You said we did it. Yeah, I remember that profoundly.
I was so moved by that, and when I saw that some other fan had done that, I'm just like, brother, I get you. I'm like, I understand why you made this. I would have made it myself if I'd had the time.
Kindred spirit.
Yep.
Well, to bring it back, I mean, since we're on this and we're going to cut this whole scene out, the 2016, that election had not been decided yet, right?
Oh, No,
Or
it
had
would
it
have. So if this came out in December of 2016,
December 16th?
then it would have been November of 2016. So
How long did they fight that one? Or was that one pretty cut and dried?
that was cut and dry. It was decided
Oh,
that night.
so,
So
okay,
he
gotcha.
hadn't, if it came out in December, he had not actually taken office. So Obama was still president at that point.
Right. Gotcha.
So we didn't, we knew it wasn't going to be good, but we didn't know how bad it was going to be.
So it's funny because when you texted me today, and again, we'll cut this out. You were talking about I was making an analogy to the Roman Empire. So I thought about this analogy. If you went W, Obama, Trump, you could go Caligula, Claudius, Nero. It's very, very similar. You had like a really good emperor in between two bad ones. But the thing is, in retrospect, you look at W and you go, not so bad. But at the time we were like, well, this dick, you know what I mean? Like,
well, so it's degrees of norm violation.
yeah.
So I would say that the W period was bad politics, bad policy, but still operating within American
Societal norms
of what is expected of a politician. Only in that window does W look good.
Yeah.
He was a normal politician. The people around him were normal politicians, except for Cheney, who was kind of preceded the situation that we find ourselves in now, with extra political action that would have been inconceivable a decade or two or three earlier. Now we find ourselves on the precipice of we are living through an interregnum. I think it is quite likely that Trump will be reelected in 2024, because I think that when Congress flips in 2022, Biden's agenda is effectively over. Any kind of truth-telling commission about January 6th will be over. Democrats are acting as if both sides can still be controlled by the traditional rules of our government.
Yep.
The other party is acting outside of the law and will continue to do so. The Democrats,
when only one side plays by the rules, the side that doesn't wins.
The Democrats are unilaterally disarming by continuing to say we can unite people by putting out programs that people like. That is no longer the key motivating factor for voters. It used to be that politicians were either rewarded or punished based on the policies that they produced or the scandals they were involved in. Scandal, if you're on the right, is now a badge of honor because you're giving the middle finger
to the establishment.
Yeah. So the typical checks and balances of rewards and punishment in government no longer are operative. That puts us in uncharted territory.
I want to talk about this some more, but off camera. But before we stop the recording, I did want to go back to what you were saying about the struggle at Scariff being a desperate struggle that, they know the odds are against them. They don't even know when Rogue One takes off. They don't even know if the rebels are going to help them. There's no.
No, they don't.
There's no guarantee. They don't even expect that.
They just know that inaction is not an option.
They have to go, and then and they're going to figure it out as they go. But once they're down there, so the situation gets more and more tenuous. Not every character knows this, but at some level, they have to. Each one of them has to make the ultimate sacrifice. They get to the point. The first character to do so is Kay, right?
Yes.
He's the one that's like, I'm closing the vault now. Climb. You'll reach it.
He knows it's over for him.
He's their last resort. He's their last chance. So he's like, He
I
does a
know.
Han Solo at one point. He goes,
I love that.
doesn't
Every time
even
a new
look.
trooper comes to the door, he doesn't even look.
Doesn't even look. He's already calculated the distance and his arm motion. He knows all that stuff. Like, he's a robot. I mean, he knows how to do that. The fact that Solo does it means he's a Force user to me, but but in a robot, he's not a Force user. It's just calculation.
I like your theory.
That's my theory, and I'm sticking with it.
I like it.
In fact, that's almost exactly a year to the date that Force Awakens came out. So it could have been an homage to that scene. I don't know. But but K2 is the first one to like sacrifice himself for the greater cause, right? Yep. The next one, I think, is other than like ancillary characters, but this one, I don't even think he's a named character. He's the wide-eyed guy that's on the shuttle. He's kind of like, the general's still there, and he's like, we got to get to that switch. And he says, I'm going. And he gets immediately shot.
Right.
But we start to see this cascading effect. These characters going to get killed one at a time.
Losses mount.
Chirrut, of course, is next. And then Baze is next. And he gets taken out by a grenade. Mm-hmm. But, it's that realization that, the first time seeing this, oh my gosh, this might not be a happy ending.
Right. And in that regard, it's not your typical Star Wars film, because in Star Wars films, our intrepid heroes win the day. It's hard, but they make it out.
And come back for 2 more movies.
Yeah. This time, nobody's making it out because...
Or more.
That's the reality of resistance, is a lot of you don't come back. But you've given your life to ensure a better future for others.
So here's the hero aspect. Okay. Here's the extra bit that, and this goes along the lines of what we were talking about contemporary society, and is that, ultimately your character, and I don't mean that in a fictional character, I mean, your character is what you do when you can't take credit. Mm-hmm. There's nobody around.
Nobody's looking.
There's nobody's going to nobody's going to sing songs about you, and nobody's going to write poetry about you. Nobody's going to remember. You're just going to do it, and then that's it. And it's what you do at those moments. And I think that's why these kinds of scenes bring out that kind of emotion in me. These World War II scenes, the way they would portray these things, the Green Berets, all these great like John Wayne like type of like war movies, although I was more into the European theater ones than the Pacific theater ones for whatever reason, but The Longest Day, these desperate causes, Saving Private Ryan, would I do, if I were put in that situation, am I capable of doing that? Would I be capable of doing that?
I think the commonality of people who are in those situations are that no one knows what they will do in that situation until faced with it. And you're frozen, so I'm not sure if you can hear me now. You can.
Yeah,
okay,
you're back. Yeah, you're back.
So I think in real life, people respond to extraordinary situations in extraordinary ways that if you were to ask them in a thought experiment, you're faced with these circumstances in this situation, what do you do? I think that your answer to that in an academic environment is very different than what happens when you're actually in that situation. I think that there's a different part of the brain that operates. I think that thoughts about self-preservation, it's one of the only scenarios in which your thoughts about self-preservation are superseded by these other concerns. And it's driven by the exigencies of the moment.
Yeah.
And it's not something you can evaluate unless you're in it. You don't know none of us know how we'll behave in those situations until we're actually confronted by them.
The other part of this is it's variable. It's so on any given day, it could go one way or it could go the other. Right. Yep. So it depends on how much I ate for breakfast. Depends on how much sleep I had that night. Depends on whether the Germans bombarded us the last night. Depends on whether the guy that I went to boot camp with got shot 10 minutes before this happened. There's so many things that affect my mental state, and I'm not even in combat. Never been. I get, on any given day, just being a human being walking around, going to the supermarket, my reactions could be different, So how do I know? It's an unfair question. It's unfair to ask an individual what they're going to do in that situation. So these kinds of fantasies, these kinds of rhapsodies allow us to explore those things in a safe way. And yet we get to know a little bit more about our own psyche, and we can admit that, I'm sure you saw the HBO series, The Band of Brothers, right?
I think I saw like 2 episodes of it.
Okay. So there's a couple that I would rewatch once in a while, but they would intersperse the drama with like interviews with some of the people who had survived, right? And the Captain Winters character, the Captain Winters character is portrayed as a hero throughout. But when you talk to the guy, he's like, no, there's a bunch of Germans over there. We had to go get them. We just went down the line. Yeah, we did. We went this way, and then we went down the line, and we took them out. It's like, yeah, but you took out like 12 Germans with like machine guns and stuff.
Well,
and it's like,
and this
well,
is,
yeah,
this
but
is,
that was
this
what
is
we were
one-
taught to do, and that's what we did.
This is something that I like about Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
The Tom Hanks character. The running gag throughout the film is his squadron always trying to get information about, what'd you do in civilian life, and he really doesn't want to talk about it. And then you eventually find out he was a school teacher.
Yeah.
And in watching other documentaries, well, yeah, people were drafted. People were drafted from all walks of life. Could have been an insurance salesman or teacher or you name it. And you got drafted and you did what you had to do. I'm disturbed by, we perpetually produce pop culture that glamorizes the activity of war, when in fact, war is what happens to human beings when the veneer of civilization is stripped away and we become animals again. When Sherman said war is hell, there's nothing. I've not been in combat. I don't, if anybody watching, well, they're not going to watch this because we're going to cut this. Anybody who's been in combat, I don't know what that's like. I don't want to know what it's like.
Nope.
But based on interviews that I've heard, descriptions, imaginings, it's not glamorous. Civilization has failed, and it can only be restored by killing those who have made civilization unstable. The only way to restabilize the order of things is to kill the people who have made it unstable.
Why are we fascinated by it then?
We're fascinated. I know why. I think I know why.
Mm-hmm.
It's for the same reason that we watch sports. Sports, of course, is a way to conduct warfare in a civilized way, a ritualized way that we can all participate in as spectators, because our ordinary life often lacks challenge. Our food is provided for, our clothing is provided for, our homes are heated, if we're fortunate enough to have a decent income.
Most people can have all of those comforts. Yes.
Right. So when you have taken care of all of the tiers of Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
it's a good one.
Many people are left feeling empty. People who are not engaged by the arts, people who are not engaged by literature, those people are left feeling empty, and they are missing that struggle that the fantasy of combat provides or makes seem appealing, or the same reason that some people are excessively fascinated by hunting game. Nobody has to hunt. None of us have to hunt anymore. All you have to do is go down to the 7-Eleven, go to the grocery store. Some people want to do it so they can feel that ancestral drive that we have because we are animals.
I think you tapped it there. That's at least you tapped the part that I believe. I believe that it's part of our monkey genome.
Yep.
I just think it is. I think
it's
that
inescapable. I think
we are combat oriented. Our bodies and brains respond in those ways. It's a survival instinct. It's tribal. We
I
formed
mean,
into
we're
groups
trying to
because,
overcome. We try to overcome what we are
yes.
at our base level.
Well, I mean, that's what I would hope the goals of the arts of civilization would be, to tame that beast. And I think, you know, when you see, gosh, there's so many ways to go with this, but to be a temperate person. I think Aristotle said, we become just by performing just actions.
Mhm.
We become temperate by performing temperate actions. We become brave by performing brave actions. You know, we to me, one of the goals of life is to not succumb to the animal instincts,
Right.
to moderate my desires, to not be a glutton. You know, I mean, you can go down the 7 deadly sins if you want. You can, you know, do whatever you want. You can call it sin. To me, it's instinct. It's about balancing instinct with aspiration. We're like this weird hybrid creature. You know, we're half gods, half animals, or somewhere in between. And you know, we're demigods, and you know, we're very powerful. Our brains are very powerful. We can put them to great use. But how are we going to do that? What are we going to do? You know, what's your choice? It's your choice. That's why free will is so fascinating. That's why, you know, once your needs are met. Now, don't get me wrong. I still love, I think it's Lenin, but I still love the quote, Vladimir, not John, who said,
Figured that.
any society is 3 meals away from revolution.
Yeah.
I believe that. I believe if I'm hungry enough, desperate enough, I'll do anything to get food.
Oh, geez,
Yep.
Pat, you don't even have to imagine. I mean, when Superstorm Sandy occurred, what, 10 years ago,
Yeah.
people were shooting each other. No, granted, not many, but
Yeah.
more than one gas station shootings because people started to hoard gasoline. As soon as the supply chain breaks and people start to think, I'm not going to get a steady supply of this thing that I need,
Okay.
civilization begins to break down rapidly. It
That's-
doesn't take years or months or
No,
weeks.
it's days.
It takes days.
Hours, maybe. Yeah, that's the scary part of what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Is that we've relied upon supply chains, mostly for creature comforts, but also for food and other things that could affect the balance of society. And those supply chains are really stressed right now. You know, this holiday, are you frozen? I'm like, are you just
No.
staring at me? You're good now.
Good.
And
Good.
I'm like, yeah, you know, the cargo ships, you know, sitting off LA's coast and that sort of thing. And here I am sitting here joking, saying, "Well, we're not going to have any cheap plastic crap in the Dollar Tree this year for Christmas." But that's not entirely true. I mean, there are things that are essential that are. Yeah, I'm sure at some point we'll get a smart person to prioritize those shipments. So that instead of the Christmas decorations, we get the food in first. But that's, you know, we've lived. I don't think we realize how tenuous, like you said, it's a veneer. It's a microns thick veneer. It's really, really thin.
It is. And anybody who's been through a storm that has knocked out their power for a couple of days or had various supply chains disrupted has experienced it, that our comfort level is extreme. Only because of this constructed artificial world that we live in every day. The real world is out there beyond this wall that's just to my right. It reminds me of the conversation I heard a little while ago, a couple of years. I think I might have read it. Somebody was making the argument that the noble savage, right, very romantic ideal. And this guy was saying, I don't understand why people think that. The earth is trying to kill you all the time.
Yeah.
It's trying to freeze you. It's trying to burn you. It's full of animals that will sting you, bite you, poison you. It's full of plants that will poison you. There's nothing inviting about the natural world, but we found a way to make it bearable for us so that it feels comfortable.
Yeah.
That's the reality of life on Earth for us.
He's right.
I mean, we have this, we have this whole constructed world that is extremely reliant on technology and gives us the illusion of control. And it's always an illusion, all of that control. I mean, anybody who's ever been sick, if you've ever had a malady where you faced surgery or mortality, your life feels out of control, and you realize that you're at the whims of biology, you know. So it just wakes you up to the idea that nothing is as solid or given as you think it is when you're young, maybe even little.
Well, I mean, it's all these factors. I mean, I have friends that we would read about the Stoics, and the Stoics are fine, but I like the Epicureans, I should say, better. Heraclitus says, like, you know, in order to live the good life, you have to live the good life. So in order to be able to sit here with our technology and talk over hundreds of miles about these wonderful, grandiose concepts, we have to have food, we have to have water, we have to have shelter, we have to have all these things. You know, you talked about the hierarchy of needs, but it's true. I mean, if I'm like starving and you know, I'm not sitting here like, you know, I'm selling this laptop to get something to eat. I'm going, you know what I mean? I'm not wasting my time thinking about philosophy. I'm doing stuff. So even back in, you know, 2,500 years ago, when you know, the Greeks are thinking about this, they're like, yeah, it's really easy to like be a philosopher when you have a full belly, you know?
This is something that I find, I don't read a lot of Greek philosophy, but I am often comforted by Greek philosophers because their writings are as current as anything. And you realize these are constant human concerns. And the only thing that's changed is the level of technology that we have. There's nothing more advanced about how we think or what we think about now. They had all of the same thoughts, all of the same reactions to how humans interact with the world and with each other, because it's all been done before. There's nothing new under the sun. The only thing different is that instead of you and I talking by a campfire, we're talking via this magical silicon-based device.
No, it's so true. I love the example I always use is whenever like someone complains about the younger generation, you know, they'll say,
oh, yes,
yeah, back in my day, we were tougher then, and this, that, and the other, and blah, blah, blah. And then I always pull out this quote, and it said, I find little hope for our future if the younger generation, blah, 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 blah. And it was written by Hesiod in like 760 BC, you know, and it's like,
probably about reading.
it is.
Reading was corrupting the youth because they wouldn't have to memorize stories anymore.
It was, yeah. Well, I don't know about that. It was more just about their attitudes. It's like,
Yeah.
we used to respect our elders, and we used to not speak wise to them, and we used to, you know, honor traditions and that sort of thing. And
right,
it's almost 3,000 years ago, and they're complaining about the same stuff we complain about. But on a lighter note, I heard somebody say something which was really awesome, which I cannot wait to use, which is the reason this younger generation is so angry all the time is because their music sucks. And you could say that about any generation, and it's funny. You know what I mean? Like
it is.
Like our parents could say that about us, and then, you know, so you could say it about, it's not aimed at anybody. It's just a funny statement, you know.
The funny thing about that is though, I know that was humorous. But,
yeah, because you and I, we take music from everywhere. Yeah, we're music lovers. So yeah.
And I wasn't going to say that so much as it's almost that like that trope has been turned on its head.
Yeah.
That the people who are angriest right now are old people.
Really?
I think that.
I think old people are always angry.
I think younger people are more accepting of diversity, difference, more live and let live than their older counterparts. The people who are charging the capital are not young people, they're middle-aged people who are all angry about something. It's like this unfocused anger. I'm not even sure they know what they're angry about. All their needs are met. The profiles of most of the insurrectionists are people who are quite comfortable. They're not on the margins of society by any means. What the hell?
It's this is my theory. I don't know. Usually it's fear of losing something.
I think that's absolutely it. I think that
so if you're dominant, if you're the dominant culture,
Yep.
Whatever demographic, you're in power. What's your worst fear? Losing power. If you're rich, what's your worst fear? Losing your money. If you're healthy, what's your worst fear? Losing your health. I mean, it's either fear of something, it's a desire for something you don't have, or it's a fear of losing what you have. I mean, that's
I think you hit the nail on the head.
Human condition.
That's my belief as well, that it's large. What's happening right now is largely motivated by the United States has always been a majority white country, and that while we give lots of lip service to equality, it's never been true. Never from day one. It's not true today. But what has happened is that there's been an ascendance of non-whites who are starting to gain ground, and that's freaking out a bunch of white people who do not want to live on an equal footing and don't want to have to compete in an equal situation because they believe inherently they are superior and they shouldn't.
Or on an unequal level. That's the problem. The problem is, and this happened in the newly freed South after the Civil War, was that there were poor white farmers who were, they were mad that there were, freed slaves that were making more money than them. They had 40 acres and a mule, and they were doing it. And they were like, well, wait a minute, like that's not cool. And
I have to say that
their whole self-worth got diminished.
This is an area where I found that my high school education, which I think on the whole was pretty good, I was failed. That I don't recall any substantive education about Reconstruction.
No, we never made it that far. We were lucky if we got to the Civil War.
I didn't learn about details of the history of Reconstruction until probably the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Saw a couple of great shows on PBS about how many Black politicians there were in the South after Reconstruction. Well, while the Northern armies were still occupying all of these Southern cities. And as soon as, I guess it was Andrew Johnson, basically said, it's over, pull everybody out. The North gave up on that project. Southerners went right back to doing what they'd always done, by essentially terrorizing. Even though the Blacks had legal rights, they were terrorized into not exercising.
Not de facto rights, though.
Not de facto rights, right.
Yeah,
so I did not know how many Black politicians were in Congress from the South. You're talking about the farmers who were competing against their white brethren. And this was terribly, terribly threatening to the Southern order. And there was the backlash reaction to that, gave rise to the Ku Klux Klan, Jim Crow, and all the rest of it. And that none of that was ever covered in my primary school education.
No, we didn't get. The problem with the way they taught history was they would teach American history would be taught from either from the colonization or the Declaration.
Oh, we covered colonization in depth, starting in 8th grade. I remember all kinds of. We never got far enough to. We never got to World War I. We never got to World War II. All that stuff I had to read on my own. I didn't know anything about Vietnam until. They wouldn't in the 80s.
Touch that.
It was still too fresh. And today, I'm not even sure if schools touch that. Because it's still too, even 50 years later.
I have no idea. I'd have to ask my niece and nephew, but that's a good question. Maybe I'll bring that up. It's
so we're having this whole reckoning about people.
Oh, I know
who-
what I was going to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
Reconstruction might have worked, but it would have had to have taken at least 30 years. It would have had to have at least
Right.
been a generation so
Right.
that there was a new, like you said, the new generation that's coming up has no problem, well, I don't like to generalize, but what I'll say is that
More
there are
acceptable.
less racial tensions. I think there's less, you know what I mean? Like it's not
Yeah.
a thing for them,
Yeah.
right?
It's
Not a
less of it.
thing. Race, sex, sexual preference,
Right.
sexual ambiguity.
Right.
I mean, gender ambiguity, all that kind of stuff that's
Yep.
scary to, you know,
Yep.
the older people. That's not, it's just, it's not even a thing. It's just,
Right.
it's just not visible, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
No,
don't know what I don't know what a good comparison would be for our generation when we were that age. I can't think of anything. It'd be like
things
the
are pretty
difference
status
between
quo.
whether somebody had blue eyes or green eyes, or whether somebody liked country music or liked rock and roll. Yes, there's a difference, but it's not an appreciable
Oh.
difference.
Hold on just a moment.
Something like it. So,
Gonna have to go soon.
yeah, that's cool. I expected us to break up around 6:30. I mean 9:30, but that's
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it always goes longer because we get talking, and things are always interesting when we talk.
and we haven't talked for a while. So I'm glad everything's well with you. I'm happy about your dog. I've been following you on Insta. So I've been checking out the puppy. So it's cool.
It's all good, Pat. So think about what we can do next, whether it's Blade Runner 2064 or something else that has some meat to it that will support discussion.
I'll do Blade Runner. I'll let you answer that call.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right.
Talk
Take
to you
care.
soon.
Yep.
Bye.